Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 24 Driver Career Mode with myself driving for RB in our second season. If you did miss the last episode, it was an absolutely insane episode with Yuki Tsunoda claiming his first ever victory around the Temple of Speed for Kick Sauber. And not only that, Valtteri Bottas would bring it home in second position for it to be a 1-2 for Kick Sauber. So an absolutely wicked result for our old team, and Charles Leclerc made it onto the podium in P3 for the Ferrari fans at their home race, and myself crossing the line in P4 after a great recovery, considering I had an absolutely shocker race start and nearly dropped down to absolute plumb last at the start of the Grand Prix. And Norris, he could not capitalise on Max Verstappen's misfortune. He had an engine failure, and with Norris finishing in P12, he did not gain at all on the championship run to try and take this world championship back from Max Verstappen. And speaking of the championship, Verstappen, he leads the Drivers' Championship by 53 points to Lando Norris going into this next round. Russell's in third, 115 points behind, and myself sits P5, only 2 points behind Sergio Pary. So with our teammate Ricciardo, he moved up to P15, 3 points behind Alex Albon. And Red Bull, they're leading the constructors by 82 points to McLaren, with Mercedes sitting in third, 179 points behind. And RB, we are sitting P6, only 4 points behind Aston Martin. And we're going to go straight to some upgrades here. Looking at the durability, it's going to be a major electrical systems upgrade, and this is a standard development which will get the part in before we head to the USA with a 0% failure rate. But also, the rush development is only at 25% failure rate, and this would get it in before Singapore. And since there is a large time gap between Singapore and America, there should be enough time for us to redevelop it if needed. So we will rush the part to try and get it in before Singapore. And we've also got some massive updates to have a look at here in the performance charts. We are now the second fastest car on the grid. Red Bull is still the fastest car, but RB we now move as the second fastest, which starting this season I was not expecting to be saying that. And McLaren and Sauber, they're pretty much now near on identical performance, and Aston Martin have made some ground on them as well. Ferrari also brings some upgrades this weekend to create a gap to Mercedes, with Alpine also making a good ground to Mercedes. And Williams and Haas are there on near identical performance as well, but they're towards the back of the pack as we now head straight into qualifying.
Welcome here ahead of qualifying for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Normally these streets are lined with vehicles, it's non-stop traffic jams, but today the roads are closed to everyone except the 20 best drivers in the world. It's time for qualifying for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
This is for sure a track of high risk and high reward, as we will quickly find out now as we come through into this left-right section. We just get it completely wrong, but we'll continue on with our lap. And now coming into this really tricky corner here, we'll lock the rears and we just keep it out of the wall, but that is our lap done. And so we'll do a bit of a recharge on the batteries and we'll go again. But once again, going into this left-right chicane, I just cannot get it right whatsoever, and so that has pretty much ruined this lap. But we will keep going to the end of the lap as we sit currently last, and we need to get a lap in with only 11.5 minutes left. That is going to put us a P10 for now, but I don't think that is going to be quite good enough. So we go around for another lap, and we see that we dropped all the way down to P19, and this time we go to P5, so much better lap. A purple middle sector as well, just to secure my spot. Verstappen is fastest in Q1 by 900ths of a second to Daniel Ricciardo. Yuki Tsunoda is in third, a 10th behind. Myself in P7 in the end, 3/10 behind. And knocked out in qualifying one, well, it's going to be, the struggles are continuing for Carlos Sainz as he transitions into the Mercedes team. Ocon, Sargent, and Hulkenberg all get knocked out as well. So does Zhou Guanyu, as we now move into the next part of qualifying here as we come to the end of our lap. And it's an alright lap, and we'll have to continue onto another lap just to make sure that we do make it in, because you see that we've dropped outside of the top 10, and in the end that lap was good enough to get us through. Verstappen's fastest in Q2 by a 10th to Charles Leclerc. Piastri's in third, 3/10 behind. Myself ended up P7 that time around, and Ricciardo is in P9 as well. Knocked down qualifying 2, it's Alonso, Hamilton, last episode's winner Tsunoda, Russell, and second place from last episode Valtteri Bottas not making it into the next part and the final part of qualifying, as we now go ahead and complete our first lap here in this session. It's only P9, and so we go around for another lap here on a fresh set of tyres. It's starting to get really dark here in Baku, and I reckon that says on the steering wheel it is P6, and it is indeed P6 for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix for us in the Grand Prix. But it is pole position for Charles Leclerc in Baku, and it's by a 10th to Sergio Pary, so the king of the streets on the front row as well. Max Verstappen's in third, 4/10 behind, and myself and Ricciardo will be sharing the same row of the grid.
Good afternoon and welcome from Baku. This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last-second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and for Lance Stroll. Let's find out what lies in store for us this year. It's time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Baku's city circuit then. It's an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Stroll, Lightning, Norris, Oscar Piastri, Albon, Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Hamilton, Tsunoda, Verstappen, Bottas, Ricciardo, Sainz, Ocon, Sargent, Hulkenberg, Joe, and George Russell ends our grid lineup. And now it's time to head down to the track. And alongside me today, former Formula One driver and former world champion too. See, told you I'll give you a big intro. Anthony Davidson, hello. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Okay, mate, only 3 races left, and you've still got a chance at the title, but if we're going to win it, we're going to need some very special performances in every one of those 3, and it starts here. Let's see what you can do today.
Well, to think that we're still in a championship contention, I think, is a bit of a stretch, but we'll try and do our best to see what we can make of it and see where we can do. But for the strategy-wise, we're actually going to bring the pit lap back a little bit to lap 9 from 11 just to see if we can create some sort of undercut, but we're going to focus to the race as we're off for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and it's a pretty good start for ourselves. We actually do outdrag Lance Stroll to the first corner, so we'll slot into P3 here. Charles Leclerc leads ahead of Sergio Perez, and we'll tuck into 3rd position as we now take a look further down the field here, and it is Norris who is staying ahead of Pierre Gasly at the moment. But behind him, it is the rest of the field that is still pretty much running side by side as Albon is trying to outrun Oscar Piastri here in that McLaren. But I think it's going to be Piastri who's going to be able to get the inside line. But Albon swings around the outside. Is he going to be able to now use that inside line? He doesn't even need it because he'll outbrake Oscar Piastri anyway going into the next corner. And he will take that P7 position away from Oscar there. Hamilton in 9th and Fernando Alonso is currently rounding out the points, sitting in at P10. And as they come to the end of the opening lap, starting the second lap, it is Lewis Hamilton who is now trying to get himself ahead of Oscar Piastri. So Piastri, maybe on that formation lap, didn't get the tyres into the correct window just yet, so he's struggling at the moment. But to be fair, I did just see he is on the hard compound tyres, so Lewis Hamilton on those mediums will obviously be having a little bit of extra grip into this opening stage of the race. So the McLaren there of Oscar looking to run along in this opening stint here as the battles continue here on lap 2. It is Fernando Alonso now getting himself up into P9. Could he possibly make it P8? He swings it around the outside of Oscar as well, and he does. Fernando Alonso up 2 spots into P8. A very, very wise move there from the 2-time champion. And we will take a further look now at Pierre Gasly as he's looking to try and get himself now ahead of Lando Norris, and you'll see that it's both McLarens running the hard tyres, so both McLarens are looking to try and go long in this opening stint, and Gasly, he does manage to get himself ahead of Lando Norris there. But crucially now, down this other DRS straight, Pierre Gasly could find himself under fire here, but not as much as Lando Norris, as Albon is looking to try and get himself into this fight. And he does get himself ahead there of the McLaren. Fernando Alonso now, he's looking to try and get himself past this McLaren here. So the McLarens on these hard tyres don't seem like they've got a massive amount of pace. As we continue through the lap here, they'll continue to go side by side into turn 2, and Fernando with the inside line, you'd think would have the move done, but the traction is actually on the outside line there. That's how Lando Norris is currently staying ahead, but here is Oscar Piastri. Could he try and make something work out of this? He nearly made it 3 wide going to that corner, which I don't think would have really ended too well there. Fernando Alonso, is he able to get this move completed and get himself up into P7? They'll continue to go side by side, and it is going to be Norris who holds onto position just for now, but back on board with ourselves here. We've got our first objective of the Grand Prix, and that is we need to get past Sergio Perez here. We've been trying to take care of our tyres here, as you can see with our throttle application. There is just very little to no wheel spin, but further onto the lap, we now understand the hurry up. We need to get ourselves past here of Sergio Perez, but Perez, rather than trying to defend from ourselves, he's used all the battery that he's got, and he has got himself up alongside Charles Leclerc. Are we able to try and make something work out of this? So we'll go back to the racing line and see if we can't perform a bit of a cutback here, use a bit of curb on the inside there. We can't get it done, but now we're going to use the slipstream and the DRS from Sergio Perez, and that is going to be us now up into the lead of the Grand Prix as we sweep around Sergio Perez. So a very swift maneuver from ourselves to get us into P3, then into P2, and then into the lead of the Grand Prix. But behind us, the McLarens, they're continuing to battle. It is now Piastri ahead of Norris, and so I'm sure for the World Championship, Norris is not going to be looking for that, because he is still trying to chase down Max Verstappen, who currently finds himself outside of the points paying positions at this stage of the Grand Prix. And now this battle for the lead has broken up a little bit. We can see here now, Perez is running really, really slow. So he's now dropped a position off of the podium to Lance Stroll here. Stroll now in the Aston Martin is sitting in that 3rd position, and Perez just seems to be dropping away as he's immediately lost half a second as the McLarens continue to battle it out once again. Is this Lando Norris finally going to be able to get himself back ahead of his teammates? He'll have the inside line, but remember, just before we saw the outside line actually has the better traction, so it's going to be a drag race down this DRS straight between the two McLarens, but there is a Ferrari tucked right up behind him. The Ferrari goes to the inside. Oscar defends the inside. Lando, he'll sweep around the outside. Is he going to be able to get the positions? Yes, he can. And Oscar's had a moment somewhere under traction because Lewis Hamilton has been able to get the McLaren as well and get himself up into P9 now. As we'll take a further look here, George Russell has been in absolute struggle town, and the struggles will continue for him as he now looks to be quite slow. The yellow flags are out for the British driver, and he will pull off into the runoff at turn 1, and that is going to be George's day done here in Azerbaijan, which is a bit unfortunate, especially considering the other Mercedes currently sits P15. Our next objective from Mark, we need to use ERS. We need to be consistently using the ERS throughout our laps to try and maintain this race lead that we've got at the moment over Charles Leclerc, while the struggles continue for Sergio Perez as well, because Gasly is now looking to get himself ahead of the Red Bull, and he does so. So Perez now down to the P5, and I'm sure very quickly that will become P6, as Albon will probably be looking to try and get himself ahead, and he will be looking to try and get himself ahead. They're going side by side down the main straight. The DRS and the straight line speed of the Williams is absolutely insane, and he pulls into the pits. That was a bit anticlimactic. I am sorry. But he pulls into the pits, so that gives us a hint of the pit window opening up now. You did notice as well, I'm still out as we've got Charles Leclerc right up behind us, and we're pulling into the pits now onto lap 12. So I kind of had this idea, right? So I was meant to come in on lap 9, but by lap 9, I'd found myself in the lead of the Grand Prix, somewhere I was not expecting to find myself. So I have stayed out and pretty much tried to do the original pit stop strategy, which would have been lap 11. You see though, we pitted lap 12. That's because coming down the straight each time, I was just driving my rearview mirror, trying to see what Charles Leclerc was doing. I wanted the pit at the same time as Charles Leclerc to try and make sure that we didn't run the risk of any sort of undercut, overcut, anything that was going to happen. So I've made sure to pit on the same lap as Charles Leclerc, even if it does unfortunately mean that Daniel Ricciardo may have to wait a little bit, as the boys and girls down the pits have to sort out the pit box ready for him. But Williams will need... Oh, I was about to say Williams need to get ready for Logan Sargent. He's going to have front wing damage. That's a bit more than just front wing damage. We'll take a replay here, and it looks like he wasn't wide. He just picked up a heap of throttle and just threw it into the wall. So, a bit unfortunate there from Logan Sargent. That will bring out the safety car, and we'll do an order check here while we're under the safety car. So it's myself leading the way from Charles Leclerc, then Stroll on the podium as well. Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, Alex Albon, Lewis Hamilton, Yuki Tsunoda, and Sergio Perez rounds out the points at the moment in the Grand Prix. Then it's Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, our teammate, currently sitting P13, so I wonder if he was maybe held up a little bit there in the pit cycle, considering we pitted the same lap. Valtteri Bottas, Carlos Sainz, the only Mercedes left in the race, sits P15. Then it's Esteban Ocon and the two Hasses of Hulkenberg and Zhou rounding out the rear of the field. Start to consider a race restart behind the safety car. But we're taking a look here at Max Verstappen because his championship run is just going to get so much more tougher for himself. A DNF last race in Monza with an engine failure, and this time round another mechanical, this time under a safety car, so it's going to be 2 race weekends in a row. Max Verstappen scores absolutely nothing, but hopefully, for his sake, Lando Norris will not be able to score any points for this race weekend. Unfortunately for his sake, though, he is currently sitting P6. So it looks like Lando could possibly gain quite a few points on Max Verstappen and see if he can't go for back-to-back world titles here in Formula 1. For myself, though, we are focusing on trying to keep these tyres in a very critical temperature window. We'll continue to weave, and we're trying to put off Charles Leclerc here, try and play a little bit of mind games here with the Monaco driver and see if we can't catch him napping a little bit on the restart. And we'll go now to try and leave as little time for him to try and slipstream from ourselves as we go into turn 1, and in the end it's going to be about a 4/10 lead that we can get, and we'll take that. But the main question will be whether if we can hold him off down this next straight here. We'll use a lot of curb to try and see if we can't hook the car around the corner and carry a bit more speed through there to see if we can't defend. But I've only just noticed I have not re-enabled the ERS. I've been using a little bit of overtake here and there, but we have not actually re-engaged it, and so this could prove costly, but we do manage to defend it from Leclerc, so we've kind of got off of it a little bit here, a little bit lucky there that Leclerc probably didn't dump as much battery as he probably needed to get himself by us, but he has done it anyway, even before the DRS gets activated, as it will be activated now this lap. Sergio Perez, is he about to lose a position to Oscar Piastri and fall outside the points? It looks like he might, and he has fallen outside of the points now. So no Red Bull will be scoring a point at this stage in this Grand Prix, which is a bit shocking for Red Bull standards, as we now look to try and get the move back done on Charles Leclerc. We'll look to the outside of turn 1, we'll get the power down, and he will still have the nose there, up down the inside, and so we'll kind of break a little bit early, and we'll continue to run side by side, but now it's going to be a drag race, and we're absolutely squeezing him up to that inside wall, and we're trying to play a little bit of games here. We both want this win desperately, pushing him so far over to the wall that he's actually kicking up a little bit of dust, and we'll sweep around his outside at turn 3, and that is us now up into the lead of the Grand Prix once again, and back on board with ourselves. Same lap 18, and it is now time for us to get our next objective, and we need to burn some fuel. We've had a safety car window where we threw the car into lean mixture, and so because of that, we have got 1.7 laps of fuel. So we really need to burn this fuel off, because my best bet is that we're going to be at a net weight deficit to Charles Leclerc, making it even that just bit more harder to try and catch and pass Charles Leclerc. As now with the DRS, so we tried to look around the outside, but we couldn't get it done, and so we'll have to try and bide our time once again. There is going to be many more opportunities with the last 6 laps to go. The other Ferrari, though, of Lewis Hamilton, he is looking to try and get himself around the outside of Alex Albon there in the Williams. Is he going to be able to get it done? He will once again have the outside for turn 2, but so far this race, it has been proven that the outside is the preferred line, as he's going to be able to get the traction down, but he won't have the DRS. Alex Albon will have the DRS. Back to the front, though. We are now finally looking to see if we can get the lead back from Charles Leclerc, and we sweep around the outside, and that is us now back into the lead of the Grand Prix. And behind us, it is 3 wide with Yuki Tsunoda making contact to the inside wall as he was ping-ponged around. Albon will hold on to the position ahead of Lewis Hamilton. On board with ourselves once again, and our lead looks like it may be short-lived as Charles Leclerc is attacking us, and he has managed to get himself back ahead of us, and behind Albon and Hamilton battling, continuing to battle, and this time Hamilton will get the position ahead of Alex Albon. Back to the front, it is us. We have got the DRS. We look to the outside, so we're going to try and go for the cutback, but Leclerc has parked the car perfectly on the apex, and we make a little bit of front to rear end contact there. Hopefully no damage has been sustained through that little battle there. But Leclerc defending to perfection to maintain this lead of the Grand Prix as we now go on to lap 24. 3 entire laps left of the Grand Prix. That is Piastri. He's looking to the outside of Albon. He's going to get the preferred line coming into turn 2. He'll get the better traction. Will he be able to get the DRS? He does not get the DRS. Albon, once again, will have the DRS. He's got a shot to try and come back with him. But here is Daniel Ricciardo, our teammate. Can he get himself inside the points? He looks to the outside of Alex Albon. He goes to the outside of Oscar Piastri. Is he going to be able to get the 2 for 1, just as Fernando did at the start of the race? He'll go to the inside now at turn 4, and he cannot get it done, but he is up into the points now. That is P10 for our teammate, and so hopefully he can stay within the points and maybe try and get Oscar Piastri, because he looks like he's got some really good pace at the moment. For ourselves though, we use the DRS, we get ourselves back in front of Charles Leclerc, and that is us back up into the lead of the Grand Prix. We've got 2 laps to try and maintain this lead. Behind us though, Fernando Alonso, we just spoke of him. He is currently ahead of Lando Norris. Tsunoda though, he is looking to try and defend from Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton's on an absolute charge at the moment, and he's looking to try and get past last episode's race winner. Around the outside, he will go. The better traction is on for him here. But to the front, though, we have been under attack from Charles Leclerc. We give him the squeeze to the inside wall, and surely that there is the move to try and secure this race win. He's immediately dropped to half a second behind. Ricciardo is now past Oscar Piastri. That puts him up to P9. It is all kicking off here in the final few laps here of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso onto the final lap of the Grand Prix. He's looking to get past Pierre Gasly to possibly get up into P4. He'll go to the outside. He will have the better traction as he comes to the exit of turn 1. Is he going to be able to get the move done before turn 2? I don't think so. He does get the move done before turn 2. So now the focus will be for him to defend into turn 3 here. And for us, we coming to the line, we have deployed all of the DRS, ERS that we can use, and we claim the victory here in Baku. And that was a very, very hard fought victory. Battled all the way to the end. I really thought Charles Leclerc could have got us out on the line.
And so ends another Azerbaijan Grand Prix. A fascinating race and a well-deserved victory.
To overcome the difficult circumstances they faced throughout this race today, Crofty, it's not easy, and it really shows a lot of maturity, and you can use this, you can draw on this as a driver moving forward and boost your confidence through the rest of the championship.
As we await the winners to take their positions on the podium, one thing is clear today. RB have really shown their prowess on the track. This is a team that isn't afraid to take risks, whether that's on the circuit or in the new talents they hire. Today, those risks certainly paid off.
And that is another victory for us in this series. It feels good. This one was very, very satisfying. Charles Leclerc, I really did think he was going to get us to the line there. I was going down that main straight, deploying everything I had. And I reckon I only had about 10% left as we crossed the line. Lance Stroll, though, well done, mate. On the podium for Aston Martin, his first podium of the series. We'll take a look at the rest of the top 10. It's Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris, Yuki Tsunoda, Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo, and Oscar Piastri rounding out the points here in Baku. Verstappen, Sargent, and Russell, they're all non-finishers. So Norris claiming some points here, and Verstappen DNFing will be a sure take that the lead at the top of the championship is going to come down, and we'll take a look at that championship lead. So Verstappen leads it by only 45 points now to Lando. We move into P3 though, 104 points behind Ricciardo. He's 1 point behind Alex Albon in P16. The Red Bull, they lead the Constructors' Championship by 73 points to McLaren. Ferrari move into P3 now. They're 166 points behind. RB, we are in P6, 4 points behind Aston Martin. So that battle is absolutely on to try and take P5. And we are leading our heated championship rivalry against Sergio Perez. We only need 9 more points to win that battle. And our driver ratings, our experience, racecraft, awareness, and focus have all gained points, with our pace leveling up to 91 for an overall rating of 90. And our driver recognition it's at 62%, which is the highest it's ever been in any of our teammate rivalries at the moment.
Unlucky with the ERS glitch last weekend. We can reduce our chances of similar failures in the future by focusing on upgrades to our powertrain.
And that is news to me. Apparently, we had an ERS glitch during the Grand Prix, which I honestly didn't notice, but we'll look into that. And as he said, we'll have to look into the powertrain department to try and help reduce the chances of that happening again. But that is going to be all for this episode. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you for the next episode, where we head to Singapore for the Singapore Grand Prix.